and now schools are going to be reopening. So final year JHS, SHS, and university students will be going back to school starting on the 15th. So it's really important. I mean, we heard from the education minister yesterday about a task force that has been formed to ensure the safe reopening of schools. And a lot of us are wondering exactly what will be going on with the private schools. How are they ensuring that our kids will be safe? How are the teachers themselves ensuring that they will be safe? And so we have a private school teacher with us who's going to share his experience.
Yeah, so Maxwell Bentum is here with us and is going to help us to understand what's been going on with them in the private school scene. Good morning, Maxwell. How are you?
Good morning.
Yeah. How's everything?
By God's grace.
Okay, so what's happening? How are you guys handling the whole pandemic that's going on?
It has not been easy for us, but we are still trusting God that this deadly disease will get out of us so that we can go back to school.
Now, tell us a bit about yourself before we even get into the coronavirus. How long have you been teaching? What was the experience like before this whole COVID thing happened?
Oh, okay. As you rightly said, Bentum Maxwell is my name. I started teaching way back 2006.
Wow.
And I'm now with Care Guide Montessori School at Bawe.
Okay.
So that place, I think the place is cool, unlike my colleagues in other schools that have not been paid. Yes, although we are not getting full, but it's manageable.
Now, how was the class size like before the coronavirus? I mean, the day you guys even heard that schools were going to close, how did you feel?
We felt very bad because we were preparing to go to school on Monday when President gave a directive that we can no longer go. So in this case, we didn't get it easy. Yes, because some of us, we've contracted loans and all that, anticipating that we can, at the end of the day, pay. But in this case, how are you going to get the money to pay? So life is not easy at all.
So you're saying that some of your colleagues in other schools are not receiving payments?
Anything at all. They are not getting anything.
Wow.
Yes.
This is a private school?
Yes, private schools. Unlike our colleagues in the government schools that they know at the end of the month they will be getting their money. But most of our colleagues, they're not getting anything. Yes. Yesterday I was with one of my friends and he told me that right from March, today's date is what?
11th of June.
He hasn't gotten anything.
Wow.
So such a person, how is he going to cope?
Now, how was the whole experience, or did you have to teach online to reach some of your students? How was that like for you? And before you answer, to our viewers watching us on Facebook, if you have any questions for him or you want to share how you're prepping your final year, JHS, SHS, and you yourself, your university, going back to school, how is that like for you? Just share your thoughts with us via the hashtag Breakfast Daily, and our WhatsApp line is 0550585832. If outside Ghana, use the country code +233.
Okay.
How was the going online process?
Yes,
like
we started online teaching.
Okay.
So we got to a point that, we have to give them work, teach, and at the end of the day, they will submit it for marking and all that, just to complete what we planned for the academic the term. Yes, so that was what we were doing before we finally, stopped. So now we are not doing anything.
Okay, so in terms of preparation, so now the final years are going back to school. How are you preparing the students for what it is that they're going to be facing in terms of the final exams and all those things? How are you, because we don't know if the schools will be open fully anytime soon, but at least the president has permitted that some
Final year
some kind of
students.
opening should happen. Okay. What's the plan? What's the general thinking among the private schools?
Yes. As President said, that on 29th of this month, we should go back to classroom. Now, the issue here is that what are some of the measures have they put in place for us to go back to school? Because anytime government speaks, he speaks in favor of the public schools, not the private schools. So with the private schools, we don't have the capacity in terms of testing, doing this and doing that. How many private schools, can do this for their teachers? So it's not easy. Now teaching a candidate class is hazardous. Yes, because you don't know, at the end of the day, they don't have any stimulus insurance package for you. So when you go and something happens to you, you are not going to get anything. And even if they are saying that we should go back to school, those of us in the private sector, even most of our colleagues, are not going to get even TNT to go back to school. So I think they have to start from somewhere before they should just instruct us to go back to school. They should put some measures in place that if you go and something bad happens to you, these are what are some of the things that we have for you. But in this case, nothing.
But the private school teachers were calling for government to allow students to go back to school, no? So you should ideally be happy.
Yes, but we can only be happy when there are some incentives in place to cushion you. Because as I said earlier on, most of my colleagues, they have not been paid right from March. So such a person going back to school, I don't think it will be possible.
But if students are coming back to school, I'm assuming that they'll be paying their school fees. So the schools themselves should be making some monies now to be able to pay you. Correct me if I'm wrong.
They take school fees before they can pay. Even most of the parents are still owing last term's fees. So in this case, how are they going to pay this term's own? Because most of the parents too, they have been affected.
So they won't say we're going to pay for all those months that our children did not come to school.
I don't think so.
No, but then so when you're running the online virtual classes and everything else, that's still a teacher engaging students.
Yes.
So you didn't collect any monies during that period from parents?
Some parents paid. Others too are still owing, because most of the parents do pay when it is getting to the examination, because they know that if I don't go and pay my world school fees, at the end of the day, the person is not going to allow him or her to write.
Okay.
So here is the case we are doing online. So with online, we can, see how negatively it's going to impact on the schools. Yes.
Well, now with just final year students coming back, that means some of your colleagues will still be unemployed.
Yes.
Have they shared their frustrations with you?
Yes. One guy has even gone back to village.
Wow.
Yes, just because he has nothing to depend on over here. Because at the end of the day, when the month ends, the person is not getting anything. So in this case, how is he going to survive? So the person has gone back to village. So for him to come back, I think the proprietor or the proprietress needs to do something for him or her to come back to classroom. So with the private school teachers, in fact, we are not getting it easy at all. It's not easy.
So you mentioned that the government should put things in place before, you going back would be comfortable or easy for you to go back. What are specifically some of the things? Is it in the form of direct payments? Is it in the form of insurance packages? What are you looking at? What's the general thinking among the private teachers, at least your colleagues, your colleagues? What's the general thinking? What are you hoping for from government?
You see, one thing here is that we, the private school teachers, we are not like more or less those in the government sector. where you can get NAGRA to come and speak for them. We don't have any association like that. I hope you are getting me. Because when we are also having association like NAGRAT, then they can also ask the proprietors or the proprietress that these are the things that you are asking. So if you don't provide it, then in this case you are not going to school. But we don't have such a body in place. So getting our concern known to them, I think it is difficult. Yes, it's difficult.
But what are the specific challenges that you would need help with? Is it, PPE? Is it, Veronica buckets and water? Are you guys asking for yourselves and the students to be tested before you go back to school? What are the specific things you would like government to help the private schools with?
Yes, thank you. With this, I think the government can also, provide this PPEs to help the private sector.
Okay.
Because the children over there, they're also Ghanaian children. So if you are doing something for the government or the public schools, I think those in the private sector too, I think government can also do the same thing for them to also stay safe.
Okay.
Yes. So aside putting in place the PPEs, government can also help with the stimulus package.
Okay.
Yes, as he has done it for those in the health sector. He can do the same thing for the teachers also, because if you go out there and something happens to you, at the end of the day, who is coming to, cater for you?
But teachers are not necessarily frontline workers, are you?
But in this case, they are also putting us into this situation.
But if that were the case, then pastors and imams should also ask for a stimulus package. Don't you think so? Because churches have opened, people are going to church.
Yes. You see, their case is different from ours.
How so?
Because if you look at the private schools, okay, now somebody will say, although it is for individuals, okay, but government can also come in, like looking at those in the private sector. I think some of the hospitals, they have incentives for their doctors and nurses.
Especially the frontliners. Yes.
Good. That is the same thing that we want our proprietors and proprietors to do the same.
Okay.
So in case when you go out there, you don't know what will happen. Because me, for instance, going to work, I need to take about 3 cars before I can get there. Wow. So you don't know what will happen. So in this case, if I know I have something in place that in case if I contract this COVID-19, I know my family is going to be what?
Exposed to
yes.
danger.
So I think they need to put in some measures to cater for all this.
Do you think you guys should get some sort of bonuses for exposing yourself at least to help with, your finances?
Sure.
How much would be enough for you in terms of percentage of salary or something?
I don't get.
Okay, so if you say bonuses, what would you say? Okay, this would work for us.
Okay, as I said.
Or anything they give you will be okay.
Not at all.
Okay, so
let's say they can sign us on some insurance scheme policy that you are on this policy. So if something happens to you, your sum assured is this or that. That is what you are asking for.
Okay. So it's not necessarily direct cash per se, but some kind of assurance that you have a buffer, you have something to protect you.
Good.
That's what you're asking for. Okay.
Would you feel safer if perhaps government came in to test all the students and test all the teachers before you go back to school, so you at least know that we are all negative in this classroom?
Sure, because doing that will help you to know your status. And not even once. We going to school and even after closing, because you going back home, you don't know your situation because you are, mingling with the school children and you don't know. So I think we going back to school and also closing, we need to be tested every day. not just once.
What are some of your fears? Because if I'm thinking of a final year JHS student in maybe your class or your colleague's class, the child starts, showing some symptoms, or they are sick and they need help. I don't think you as a teacher would say, I don't have PPE, so I won't go in and help that child. Are those some things that worry you? Yes,
because I think the schools can liaise with the community health centers, that in case we see something like this, we will call upon you to come and assist. But we didn't hear anything like that. Just he has given a directive, 29th, we are going to school. What are some of the measures? Are they teaming up with the community health centers to be testing the kids every day? So I think government needs to do something about this one.
It's very interesting that you suggest that it should be tested every day, because ideally that should actually be what should happen. Because if you are tested today and you're negative, it doesn't mean tomorrow you'll not be positive.
Sure.
So I understand that. But here's the case where testing itself is expensive. And then we are also not doing mass testing yet in Ghana, or rapid testing in Ghana, because we simply can't go that direction. So we are doing testing people based on contact tracing, and then based on you appearing in the hospital and showing symptoms, So I don't know.
I think Obuasi is the only exception to that, because we did some mass testing in Obuasi some time back.
I think that yeah. So what they've done basically is to look at hotspots and then test those people in the hotspots. But really, there's no general mass testing across the country. So I don't know how practical this is going to be. If you look at all private schools and say we're going to test every student every day.
Mine has to do with the thermometer.
Yeah.
Even most of, how many private schools can, get this thermometer to be testing the kids?
Yeah.
So at least there should be some sort of provisions in place.
Now the barest minimum.
Yes.
To have a thermometer.
To know your temperature. Yes.
Okay.
Because if you are not going to, test them, what of their temperature too?
Yeah.
So I think
we can start from
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you so much, Maxwell Bentum, for being with us, and we hope that you will stay safe and that you'll be fine. I'm sure government is listening, and we're going to figure out what to do for the private school teachers.